seats. Let's bring in our panel. Fox News contributor Guy Benson, Tom Bevan, Real Clear Politics co-founder and president, and Yemisi Egbewole, former Biden White House Press Office Chief of Staff. Thank you all for being here. Guy, let me start with you. It does seem like it's gone well beyond Texas. It is now fighting across these different states. What's going to happen?
Well, I do think that politically it's a gift to the Republicans that the Democrats in Texas have chosen to flee to Illinois and Massachusetts as some of their top destinations. In Massachusetts, President Trump last year won 36% of the vote. Republicans have 0 of the 9 House seats in that state. In Illinois, which is a poster child of insane gerrymandering, Trump won 44% of the vote last year. Republicans have 17% of the House seats. Even if Texas were to go through with this plan and it were implemented, Texas would still be less gerrymandered than Illinois. And I think it comes down to this idea from Democrats, which is simplistic and frankly stupid, that when Republicans gerrymander, it is a threat to democracy, and when they gerrymander, it is democracy itself.
Missy, what do you think about that? If we look at the Illinois districts, and I mentioned this on the big board earlier, but if you look at them closely, there are some weird districts. I mean, District 13 looks like a stick that goes right across the state to create that Democratic district. And, you know, last night you had Stephen Colbert press the Illinois governor about that whole process.
If you're considering doing a little more redrawing in Illinois, you already have some crazy districts. Is this common for all states to do?
Well, we handed it over to a kindergarten class and let them decide.
So because all states, to a certain extent, do this, why is what Texas doing particularly egregious in this case?
Well, here, every 10 years we do a census in this country, and right after the census, we redraw districts in every state. But what the Republicans are trying to do, and the Texas Republicans, frankly, at the behest of Donald Trump, are doing it mid-decade.
But they all do it, is what his point is, giving up the game there. What's your thought?
I believe that voters choose their politicians and that politicians shouldn't get to decide their voters. And we've now entered into political gamemanship instead of governance. And what we're seeing now is a tit-for-tat situation. Newsom and Pritzker are right. They do decide every decade. But if Texas Republicans want to start moving the goalposts and we start doing it every 5 years, well, now we run the risk of doing it every 2 years or right before any kind of midterm. And so I think both sides have real issues with each other, but they are still playing the same game.
Is there a disarmament that needs to happen here, Tom, or are we past that point of mutual assured district destruction?
I think we're past that point. I mean, I think this is the latest symptom of this sort of long national divorce that we've been experiencing over the last, 10 or 20 years, the partisanship, the tribal nature of our politics. And I think this is going to continue. I mean, the only way there's talk of that Congress needs to step in and pass some sort of federal law and take this away from the states. I don't think it's feasible. Because that's not what Republicans want in red states and not what Democrats want in blue states. It's going to get worse, and I don't know how it gets better.
If there were not, and you're not going to know this answer off the top of your head, but if there were not redistricting across the country, the gerrymandering that we've already seen, do we know approximately what the House would look like at all?
Yeah. I don't know the answer.
But I mean, it's a good. Let's get ChatGPT on the line.
Well, that's the thing. You can use computing power now. You can use AI tools to draw, and people have talked about this, draw really competitive, contiguous, compact districts that would be the fairest of all.
Right.
That technology is available now 5, 10, 15 years ago. But I guess to my earlier point, I don't know that anybody's going to want to employ it.
Yeah, whoever's controlling the legislature. Let me turn to the Epstein story. Still gaining, I think Democrats still think that this is something that they need to grasp onto to try to get answers to, and they think that it's paying off politically. There was a report that there was going to be a big strategy session tonight at the vice president's house, and the vice president and the president answered a question about it. Take a listen.
We're not meeting to talk about the Epstein situation, and I think the reporter who reported it needs to get better sources.
Look, the whole thing is a hoax. It's put out by the Democrats because we've had the most successful 6 months in the history of our country. And that's just a way of trying to divert attention to something that's total bull.
But Ghislaine Maxwell does get moved to the prison camp that's less strict. Fox News poll, government transparency on the Epstein case, Democrats, Republicans, independents. There's just not a belief that this is like a coming clean moment.
Oh, yeah. I mean, those numbers look low, right? In the lack of belief in transparency. This has been a bizarrely handled saga from the very beginning, way before Trump was president, and into the Trump administration as well. And it just, the word that comes to mind here is that this is a festering story. It just sits out there. I'm not sure it's going to end up really benefiting Democrats all that much. Republicans are trying to loop the Clintons back into this, I think, for good reason. It's an ugly and strange and bizarre story, and people feel like, I think quite rightly, they have not been told the truth on something. And the hype and then the letdown has fed the festering, I would say.
And now the House Oversight Committee is going down its road. The politics of this for Democrats, what do you think?
Accountability matters. It doesn't matter if it's Democrats or Republicans. I think that the more that they try to draw this out and we don't get any answers, people are going to start to ask themselves, why do elites, or who they view as elites, try to cover this up a little bit? We have to remember that Maxwell went to jail for exploiting underage girls. There are real victims in this case, and at the end of the day, if these files are not released, it'll feel like some kind of justice wasn't served.
And she also lied, or was charged with lying under oath. Last thing, the president is touting all this money coming into the U.S., but he's also trying to fight on the foreign policy front, trying to bring Putin and Zelensky together. He has told European leaders that he intends to meet with Putin and Zelensky. President Trump intends to meet in person with Vladimir Putin as soon as next week, and he plans to follow shortly thereafter a meeting with himself, Putin, and Zelensky of Ukraine. And he disclosed these calls in these plans in a call with European leaders on Wednesday, and they're supposedly only the three men. If that happens, that's a major movement.
It is. And to Trump's credit, he's been obviously frustrated by the way this has gone. Remember, he promised he'd solve this on day one. It's taken him a lot longer. It's been a lot tougher for him. But he's stuck with it, even though he's said publicly that he's expressed frustration with the way that, things have gone with Vladimir Putin. And I think General Keane said it earlier. This is a big moment. And I think Putin knows that Trump has leverage now, and he's not bluffing about the sanctions that he's slapping on and will be continuing to put on Russia in the coming days. And so I think it is an inflection point in this process.
The Wickoff meeting apparently went well, but it happened on the day that the president increased the tariffs on India buying Russian oil.
Which was also a promise that Trump had made. I think that Putin and the Kremlin have miscalculated with Trump. Clearly, the president has become very unhappy with Putin. And if this gambit, let's have a meeting, pays dividends, great. If it's another stalling tactic or another game that's being played, I think that will royally tick off the president even further.
And this is something that you hear bipartisan support for, this effort to figure out a way to end the war.
Yeah, I think there is 100% bipartisan consensus that Putin is an aggressor. And so when the president is tough on Putin and doesn't give him the benefit of the doubt, I think Democrats really come to the table when it comes to discussing Trump and foreign policy.
Panel, thank you. We got around the horn.